Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Victor Oladokun, and I'll be your moderator for this session, Changing Perceptions on Agriculture, the Role of the Entertainment Industry, Nollywood Meets Bollywood. I think we're in for a treat. In the absence of our other two panelists, we are going to proceed right away. Just based on the title of the session today, our premise is that there is a distorted view of agriculture in both Africa and India. For the most part, agriculture is considered drudgery and often associated with poverty and living in rural communities. These perceptions have in very large part been formed through our personal experiences and also through the media and entertainment industries. So here we are in Ahmedabad, India, trying to put our collective hats together to have a conversation around this issue and to determine what our contributions can and really should be. Well, joining us today is a distinguished panel of outstanding and very accomplished professionals from Nollywood and Bollywood. I'm going to start with those who are here with us right now, and then I'll end up with the earnest hope that they will join us by the time these introductions are done. But let me first start to my immediate, actually to the very far right of the podium, with none other than Omoni Oboli, who joins us from Nollywood and is a distinguished and exceptionally popular Nigerian actress, scriptwriter, producer, and director. She trained at the New York Film Academy. Her latest movie, which she wrote, directed, and produced, and which I must say, I thoroughly...
For your information, the session called Nollywood Meets Bollywood has begun. Seminar all 2. Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder.
Mesdames et messieurs, pour votre information, la session appelée Lorsque Nollywood rencontre Bollywood a commencé au séminaire Hall 2. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Olivia. You actually beat me to it because I was going to do the translation.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a tough one. Anyway, I was saying, Omoni, that I thoroughly enjoyed your recent movie, Okafor's Law, which I gather you produced, directed, and wrote. Phenomenal movie. We'll talk about that sometime later on. Omoni is the founder of the Omoni Oboli Foundation, which is dedicated to serving less privileged women and children. You're welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Kindly give her a round of applause. Also joining us from Bollywood is none other than Rika Rana, and it's my pleasure to welcome her to the panel. Rika is an award-winning actress. She's a recipient of 25 international acting awards, including Oscar nominations. She's the star of Tara, A Journey of Love and Passion, and many other movies. She is the founder and brand ambassador for iWoman, an organization dedicated to helping women of all ages and orphans. Her movie, Yahan Amina Bikti Hai, was nominated from the country of Cameroon and Togo for an Oscar entry in the Best Feature Film in a Foreign Language category for the 89th Academy Awards. Please welcome, give a warm welcome to Rika Rana from Bollywood. And to my immediate right is none other than Rajendra Kumar Mohan Rainey. If you look him up, you're not likely to find him listed. And there's a reason for that. In the industry, he is more popularly known as Kumar Raj. And he is a highly successful and internationally recognized film producer and director who has made quite a number of very meaningful films on women empowerment with co-productions between Bollywood and a number of African countries, which he will be talking about shortly. His 2 feature films as producer, director are Tara and Amina, which went on to win Oscar nominations for the 87th and 89th Academy Awards in the Best Feature Film in a Foreign Language category from Togo and Cameroon. Kumar has lived in South Africa for 5 years and now travels on a monthly basis between India and West and Central Africa. Please join me in welcoming Kumar Raj. In absentia, we are expected to be joined by Ibrahim Latif, who is the director of Tunisia's Carthage Film Festival, He is also a prolific film director. His movie, Sinesita, became an international prize-winning work, and in 2009, he won the prestigious National Culture Award in Tunisia for Best Film Director. Currently, he produces and hosts a radio talk show program on Mosaic FM. He is a distinguished member of faculty at ISAC and teaches sciences of communication and production. And finally, I do know that she is somewhere out there, and we hope that she can join us also shortly, is Omotola Jalade Ekende, and is a very accomplished Nigerian actress. But to keep things short, in 2013, Time magazine listed Omotola as one of the world's 100 most influential people. In absentia, kindly give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, you could have chosen any other session going on right now, so I just want to thank you for taking time out to be with us today. It would seem to me that just by the presence of our panel here, agriculture has already scored a win here in India. To the best of my recollection, this is the very first time that I've seen a discussion or a panel involving key players from Bollywood and Nollywood around a discussion concerning agriculture. For making that possible today, I think this is the very first of its kind that I am aware of. I just want to thank our panelists for coming, both from far and wide, to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Personally, I have a very long history with Bollywood that spans quite a number of decades. And you may be wondering how that is the case. Well, I owe my very first suspension in high school to Bollywood. At the age of 13, along with a few other friends, we jumped over the school wall and walked probably about 5 kilometers to the nearest movie theater to watch a movie called Raja Onrank, The Prince and the Pauper. Well, I was pauperized later on when I arrived on campus to find out that the principal was aware of our absence. Promptly got a very serious flogging. In those days, flogging was quite acceptable and did me a little bit of good. And thereafter, I was suspended for an appreciable time. Well, I think my connection with Bollywood still continues till today, so I am actually delighted to be with us here today. I'm going to start with Kumar Raj, and my question to you today is, we're talking about Bollywood, the connections between Bollywood and Nollywood. So my question to you is, yes, we're all familiar with Bollywood in Africa, but how familiar are you with Nollywood, and who would you describe as your most favorite actor or actress or director?
I've been traveling to West Africa quite often, and Nigeria, and I meet Ramsey quite often, so he's one of my favorites. I've seen a few of his movies, and he's a very, very interesting and dynamic actor, and personally he's a very good human being. Then besides them, I have seen some movies of Teco Benson, he's a good producer, and then Adam Williams, he's a good director, and then I have seen some movies of this lady, beautiful movies she has been working in. And I hope we can get your movies into India so that people do appreciate and the good work which you're doing.
Thank you. I hope so too.
And over to you, Rika.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you for the good question, Mr. Victor. Today, I met Oboli and Omotola, and I'm sorry, but I have not seen some movies, but she was telling me about her film called
Vibes on Strike.
Yes, Vibes on Strike. So I'm looking forward to watching few movies of hers. Yes.
Okay, now, Rika, you're going to do us a favor because you've got your work cut out for you after this panel. There are basically tons and tons of Nigerian movies out there, so I'm going to give you some homework after this. Okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Now she absolutely has to watch out.
Omani, what about you?
Well, I'm sure there's some Nigerians in the building. We all grew up watching Bollywood films. You know, films like Ye Vadaraha, where you'd watch and cry your eyes out, you know. So we grew up watching a bunch of Bollywood films. I particularly now like Mirane, I know she's a Bollywood filmmaker. I saw one of her films at the last Toronto International Film Festival, Queen of Catway, and it thoroughly, totally blew my mind. You know, I mean, it wasn't like it was out of this world or there was anything totally extraordinary about it. That's not why it blew my mind. What blew my mind was the fact that I saw the film and I thought, I can shoot this. You know what I mean? It's not a Transformer or, you know, one of those movies where a filmmaker like me from Nollywood would probably think, that's a bit far-fetched, you know, I don't know if I can get there now, you know, but a film like Queen of Catway, I saw it, and it's a movie I can shoot as a filmmaker from Nollywood. So I was really, really excited about watching that film, and then when I found out it was a female filmmaker like myself, you know, and then she's from Bollywood, not even Hollywood, you know, I thought that was really, really amazing, you know, and I've started to follow her online, and I'm like, okay, you know, what's she doing next? You know, people like Amitabh, of course, we grew up watching all those people, so yeah.
Wonderful. And I do hope that post this panel, there will be new synergies that will develop between Bollywood and Nollywood. I believe that there's so much that we can do together. Well, just based on the title of our panel today, or our session, it would seem to me that there are three things that we need to be mindful of. One, there is a perception problem around the issue of agriculture. Two, it suggests that the media and entertainment industries can and should play a meaningful strategic role in helping to fix this optical problem that we have. And three, when you bring together Bollywood, the world's largest film industry, together with the world's largest movie industry, Nollywood, definitely we can exploit both industries for the collective good of the 2 billion people plus that make up both Africa and India. So I'm going to take a seat in just a moment, but let me start with Omoni. I'm not too sure, are you involved with agriculture at all?
Well, I like to think that I am. You said you've seen Okafor's Law,
Yes.
right? Do you remember that the three guys, the three Chookses, Chooks the Baptist, Chooks the Fox, and Terminator, actually owned an agric business. They owned a farm. You know, so for me, you know, that's the extent of my involvement for now. But I have people like Adele Sakwe that I look up to, and I definitely want to be in agriculture. I've been talking about it for about 3 years, no, actually maybe 4 years. You know, I discussed it a lot with the president of AFDB while he was still the Minister of Agriculture. And I really wanted to get into agriculture at the time, you know, and then, you know, that government passed, and then, you know, I started to do other things, and I didn't really pursue it much, but I'm going back now. I really want to farm.
And you certainly have been consistent, because I remember the Farmers Forum in Abuja. You played a key role in that, and I do remember the characters, and I want to applaud you for including very successful role models in that particular movie, because those are some of the things that we'll need to do moving forward. Very quickly, what's your perception, personally, of agriculture? And as you engage the youth, we're going to talk about the youth issue later on, but what are your personal perceptions of agriculture?
Well, right now, unfortunately, agriculture is not cool. Most people see farmers, so to speak, as not really accomplished people. They think it's more for people in the rural areas, and especially older people. So my grandmother is a farmer, or well, was a farmer till recently. She's really old now. You know, my grandfather had cocoa farms, you know. So it's really for those people, you know, our grandparents, sometimes our parents, but definitely not for us, you know, not for young people at all. You can't make a living being a farmer. Okay. You can't become rich being a farmer.
Okay.
You know.
We'll come to some of the root causes in a moment, but I want to go with Rika next. And what are your personal perceptions of agriculture as a profession and as a business? Is agriculture cool?
Okay. As Oboli said, her grandmother was into farming. My grandfather was also into farming, but I have not seen anybody after that in farming profession. Because personally, I feel that, as she said, that it's right now. We are thinking that farming, agriculture is for the rural area. So definitely, I feel through movies, and especially Bollywood, as an actress, I would like to portray a role of of an actress who is successful as a farmer, mentally and financially.
Okay.
Maybe because people, they follow stars. So if they see a successful woman on screen as a successful, financially successful, so maybe they can also follow the profession.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we definitely need more of that, and we're going to come to what we can do as an industry about that in a moment. But while we're still talking about personal perceptions, I'll come to Kumar for his contribution in this regard.
I think to survive on this planet, agriculture, I think, is the most important thing, without which there will be no life on this planet. So it is a basic necessity, and it's our responsibility to support agriculture wherever we can. Now, agriculture is not just growing plants, it is also connected, it's connected with everything around it. Could be storage, transportation, shipments, and everything connected with agriculture. And I have been involved in shipping quite a lot. I have worked for World Food Programs, World Health Organization and World Food Programs, whereby we've been taking a lot of fertilizers into Djibouti for Ethiopia, each ship having about 60,000 tons. Regularly we take down to Djibouti, and from there, because Ethiopia is a landlocked, so to help the farmers over there, the World Food Organization sends them not only wheat, food and everything, but they send them fertilizers. So it is regularly sent to Africa in a very big way. It's not only food, fertilizers. So agriculture is not only growing, it is even storage, transportation and everything. And we should support it because if we have to sustain life on this planet, the day agriculture stops, man will start eating man. So we have to prevent all these wrong things to happen. We have to support agriculture.
Would you be in agreement that the entertainment industry and the media in particular are complicit in the negative stereotypes that we have surrounding agriculture? Would you agree?
It's, I feel that it is a responsibility of every person in whatever profession he is to help in the contribution of agriculture. Not only by consuming it, but by any other ways he can possibly help. I, as a producer-director, felt women empowerment movies are not being made. When I started making women empowerment movies, people said, your movie is not going to work. You're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. I made a movie and it went to Oscars. Not one, but 2 movies went to Oscars. So I'm the only producer-director from India whose 2 movies have gone to Oscar. Now, when I read more on agriculture after being invited over here, I have decided that it's a very interesting subject, and I am ready to make a movie on agriculture. So I'm ready to support it.
And we're going to talk about what we can do to leverage the power of the media, to leverage our collective contacts here, to take not just movies from Togo and Cameroon, but other parts of Africa to the Oscars, and I believe you'll be talking about that in a few moments. Sure. I'm going to pass the microphone to someone in the audience. Is Adele Sakwe in the audience? Is she?
Yes.
Can somebody pass the microphone to Ada just for a moment? My question comes to you, and it's a very simple one. I'm sorry to put you on the spot just like this, but I feel it's appropriate given your active engagement in the field, and more so as a relatively young person. Do we have a microphone that we can extend to Ada? This is my question. There's a paradox there's a paradox around the issue of food. We all eat food. We all love food. And between India and Africa, both of them, the food industry there is about $1 trillion a year. That being the case, how can agriculture have such a bad rap? Help me understand that.
I think a very simple answer would be that people just don't know exactly what you've just said. $1 trillion? $1 trillion is huge. And
Massive.
earlier on during this conference, when they were talking about agriculture is core, when they went around the panel and they asked every single young person on that panel, what would it take to make agriculture cool? Every single person said something with regards to money. It has to make money, I have to make money, whatever. So hearing numbers like $1 trillion industry would completely transform the perception of agriculture. Young people, millennials today, don't want to live in drudgery. Everyone wants to have this aspirational lifestyle that I can look good, I can afford the things I want. And right now, agriculture just doesn't do that because they don't know. But I try to tell people that this is an industry that so many people have made money on. The Nestle's of the world, the Cadburys of the world, it all starts from the farm. So as long as we put that in front of them, and that's why this is so important, and I love that we're having this conversation because you all are stars and you influence the next generation in such a huge way.
And for those who may not be familiar with Adao Sakwe, she's one of Nigeria's young agropreneurs and brand ambassadors for agriculture, doing a phenomenal work in that space. Can you give her a round of applause? My grandfather was a cocoa farmer in Nigeria.
We're related. We just don't know yet.
Awesome. He was a cocoa farmer, and he worked hard, and he lived in the rural space. But my grandfather never ate a bar of chocolates in all of his life. I don't even think he saw one. He just knew that there was a demand for his cocoa beans. And every single one of his children, my father, his brothers, and his sisters, and pretty much all of their children, decided at a very young age that they would have nothing to do with agriculture because of some of the reasons that we're talking about here. As you speak to the younger generation, how pervasive do you feel that this problem still is today? Are we reaching through to the youth? We've given the numbers. The numbers for the youth are really huge. In India, I believe that the numbers in a nation of 1.2 billion people, 65% are below the age of 35, and more than 50% are under the age of 25. In Africa, a little over 50%, almost 60% of the population are under the age of 25. How in the world can we sustain food security if we have this kind of image? So what are your thoughts about what we can do? I'll begin with Amoni here. We have a critical problem. Yes, we know that Africa is growing. Yes, we know that agriculture has great potential, and it can be used both for developmental purposes and for creating wealth, but yet we're not able to reach the youth. What do we do?
Okay, so we already know that for us to feed Africa and India, over 2 billion people, the youth have to get involved in agriculture. We can't run away from it. My grandmom now is too old to farm, so that's one person feeding a group of people who's gone out of the market. You know what I mean? So for us to create or to feed these people, the youth have to get involved. How do they get involved, though? So we can talk about it all we want. We can give the numbers. How many? What was the number again? The amount? It's mind-blowing.
65%.
No, I'm talking of how much money, how many trillion?
Combined between India and Africa, almost $1 trillion a year.
Okay, so almost $1 trillion. You can say it. You can say it here. You can say it on TV. You can say it on the radio. Trust me, you're not going to get to them.
So what do we do creatively?
Okay, so what we do creatively is what America does. America has got this whole propaganda thing down to the T.
Okay.
In the 1940s, during the war, America knew they had a problem, especially the Air Force. They knew they had a problem. They needed over 100,000, they needed about 100,000 refugees, but they couldn't get them. So guess what they did? They went to a filmmaker. They went to see, what's his name, the Warner Bros. VP. Went to see one meeting, just one meeting. We've been talking about this creative industry and agriculture for a bit now, but nothing is really happening.
Okay.
And frankly, I'm sick and tired of having meetings. I'm sick and tired of sitting down in panels and having conversations that are not really moving beyond the rooms where we have those conversations. So if something has to be done, it has to be done. They had one meeting. They talked about the fact that they needed movies to push the propaganda. There was a writer in that meeting, I forget his name, Alan or something like that, doesn't come readily.
Sure.
On the flight back from that meeting, he wrote the first script. In a matter of days, the movie production started. When the movie was released in theaters around America, they got over 150 people to sign up. Because guess what they did? They made it look romantic. It's a war. People go there to die. But they made it look romantic. So the Air Force guy comes in the shot. You see him. He comes down from the plane. He walks towards the camera. You know, he says this thing about how cool it is. He's dressed with his aviator sunglasses, you know. And then he gets the girl, the pretty girl. He's the one who gets the girl. So it was romantic, and every young man wanted to get the pretty girl. Because when he comes back from war, he's going to get the pretty girl. And that's the mindset that the young men had. And they got over 150. They only needed 100. They got over 150. And guess what happened? Requests for war movies started coming from Washington. The studio couldn't handle it. They had to create a whole new studio just for war movies. And that's how they sustained that whole mindset thing. That's how the perception of war changed. And everybody wanted to go to war. You know what I mean? So they've managed, they do that all the time with everything they want to push. Now, if America wants to push anything, they put it in the movies. And trust me, it works. It's magic. It's almost magical.
So what you're saying, Omoni, is that we need a corollary in agriculture.
Yes.
And somebody has to push the agenda.
Yes.
Somebody has to take responsibility.
So it's not just me. I'm one person. Now, I have a movie that I'm shooting in August, which has an agricultural theme, serious agricultural theme, and how it's cool. And then the guy who's in agriculture gets the beautiful girl at the end of the day. You know, it works. I mean, why change a winning formula? You know, but that's just me. I've done one, I'm doing another. But for it to really, really work, it's going to take people like AFDB, it's going to take the other banks, the Nexims, all of them with the government to come together to say, you know what, we're putting all these billions towards agriculture. How about taking a little part of that money, even if it's 1%, to create a plethora of movies that are showing how cool it is to be in agriculture, how as a young person you can achieve your dreams by being, and it's not just farming, like we say. I mean, there's processing, there's transportation, there's packaging, there's so many parts of agriculture. So if you don't want to get your hands dirty, then you can be in all the other parts of it. And you can still look cool getting your hands dirty.
I absolutely concur with you here. I have, call it a personal angst, a personal beef recently, and I have no problems with the program. Big Brother Africa, which just wrapped recently. I believe that the winning candidate won $300,000 when the program wrapped. But that same week, I was attending a graduation ceremony at a particular university in Nigeria, and much to my shock, chagrin, horror, the best student in agriculture was given an award by a leading food company in Nigeria. You know how much he got? $50.
No, you can't do that.
So you see, something is wrong with our optics here.
You can't say that.
On the one hand, the food industry wants the support of government, wants youth engaged in the process. The government wants the same thing, but we seem to be distorting the optics when you're paying somebody for living in a house with 12 other people $300,000, and you're giving the best student in agriculture $50. Something does need to change. I'm going to hand over to Kumar, at this point, what do you think we can do creatively to engage the youth, change the optics about agriculture in our generation?
Okay, our film industry actually started around 1900, and it has been rapidly changing and evolving, and it has become a very, very very powerful tool to sell what you can. Even a wrong thing which is shown in the movies become a gospel truth. So it is a powerful tool. The people who want to make agriculture also something which is they want to sell to the youth for coming back into agriculture rather than running away to become doctors and engineers. They have to do something and tie up with movies. But
let me make the question a little bit more specific. Today, as we heard from Prime Minister Modi yesterday, he talked about India's food self-sufficiency. What role did the entertainment industry in India play, if any, in helping to change perceptions and lead us to where we are today? What is it that Africa can take away from India's entertainment industry?
We have had beautiful movies on agriculture. The Indians over here will remember Manoj Kumar, who was, everyone will remember. Who remembers Manoj Kumar? Mere desh ki dharti, sona ugle, heere moti, mere desh ki dharti. So there has been a lot of movies which did were supported by the government. In fact, Manoj Kumar is the only person in India who has been given tax-free. He can earn whatever he wants. He will not be taxed. The only Indian who has been given permission by the government, they will never tax him because he has made movies on India, he has made movies on agriculture. So this is amazing. Government has recognized him. So I think we should also recognize people. Now let me tell you, some good things were told by our Prime Minister. There are some bad things also, let me tell you. The wastage of food is the highest in the world in India. Why? We still have a lot to do. There has to be storage of cold storages, export terminals. There's a lot to be done. As soon as the monsoon comes, we have storage areas which are open, and then there's a lot of food being wasted. The food wasted is highest in the world. So yes, there's a lot of improvement which has to be done. There's a lot of good things. India has become self-sufficient. I will tell you some interesting cases. India exports sugar, okay? And sometimes we run short of sugar. I have seen there are two ships in Chennai port. One exporting sugar and one is importing sugar.
No.
So I went and checked what's going on. They said this is the last shipment of sugar which is being imported because we were running short. And that is the first shipment which is going out because we have realized that we are excess of sugar. So there are a lot of these things which happen, and there's a lot of food wastage. We have to realize that film industry is very, very vital. If you will see there are companies which are spending 5 crore rupees on advertisement and films. Their product comes in, they don't even name the product. It's just visually comes in and goes. And you suddenly see the sales of that product, my God, it's gone up. Huge profits. So it is very, very powerful tool. We have a huge audience. And one more thing, the repeat value of the movie. The movie goes to the cinema hall, then you have airborne rights, you have seaborne rights, you have digital rights, you have then you have internet rights, YouTube rights, you have radio rights, music rights. The amazing places, the same thing is being repeated.
And don't forget piracy.
Okay.
Because
that's
not good for us.
The pirates also do a
The pirates also help to move the movie.
I think, Kumar, you've packed a lot into what you just talked about here. Number one, you've talked about how it is that the Indian government actively is supporting the entertainment industry here, whether it's through tax breaks or I'm sure through other means. We've talked about value chain problems, particularly with regards to storage and possibly processing. And I'd like to hand over to Rika at this point to just add to that. What do you think we can do creatively to engage the youth and also increase the visibility of agriculture in the media space?
As Kumaraj said, that we can make good movies where we are showing farmers successful and rich and financially successful, maybe we can do the screenings of those films in the colleges or where the youth is there, right? So this kind of movies, when we are showing it in the form of documentaries, in the form of movies, and we can influence the youth.
Okay, thank you very much.
Rekha, and I'll just say something. Rekha and myself, we were discussing today that in case we have to make a movie on agriculture, let's write a small short story. She said, yes, okay, Bollywood, Nollywood. We take the hero from Nigeria.
Yeah,
okay?
and the actress
she wants to
from
work as a lead
India.
actress. Okay, done. Now the hero comes to India to study in Baroda, Maharaja University. He becomes an IT expert, goes to Infosys, and he works over there. Let me tell you the latest news. Infosys is going to sack 100,000 IT engineers in the next 1 month. 100,000 people are going to be thrown out. They are on very high salaries on where they are going to go. So this guy, Nigerian guy, is being sacked from Infosys. He goes, he's unemployed and he has a girlfriend in Bangalore, which is an Indian girl. Her parents are from farming. He goes back to Africa and his girlfriend, Indian girlfriend, he gets married to her. She helps her in farming sector. They become very, very rich. They live happily ever after.
Kumar, I just want to ask, this synopsis that you just articulated here, did you just come up with that yesterday? Or is that something that you're working on?
Yes, today morning we were writing. And in fact, the incidents which you said, we're going to add that incidents also.
Awesome, because what that just says to me here is that if you could come up with that synopsis just overnight, imagine what we can do collectively if we really commit our energies intellectually and time-wise to some concept. Rika.
As me and Kumaraj worked in 2 movies before, he always want to make a film between, Indo-African film where a guy is from Africa and the girl is from India. And we wanted to make a love story. And yesterday he came out with this idea that let's something like this we can create together. And it can be beneficial for the youth and the people who can come into agriculture, because that's very, very important part of our life, agriculture. And then I was telling Raj that maybe after my retirement, after when I'm 50, maybe I want to grow my own organic food. So maybe I'll go into farming later in my age.
If I could just throw this out, Rika, I was actually going to talk about that later on, but I just want to encourage you guys. Don't wait till you're retired.
No.
Even if it's a small patch in the ground, I think you can begin this conversation of making agriculture cool.
Yes.
When you start with something small and begin to introduce yourself as an actress and a farmer.
Yeah.
The youth are actually going to be totally shocked and say, a farmer, what is that?
That's the plan.
It could be a small patch somewhere, but start there. I think by the time you retire, then we're going to have a whole lot of, a generation of people that have already lost interest. So please do what you can. This is an issue of food security. It's an issue that pertains to our future. And I can't think of any other field, any other sector than agriculture that can absorb millions of people just literally overnight. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Omotola Jalade Akende. Well, to bring you up to speed, we've been talking about some of the optical perceptions, or some of the optical problems concerning agriculture in Africa. We've dealt very briefly with what perceptions are and what we can do creatively to fix the problem. Quick question to you. Are you involved in agriculture?
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, that was loud. I'm sorry to be very fashionably late. So the question was, am I involved in agriculture? I'm on my way there.
Sorry?
I'm on my way to being involved.
You're on your way there. Also, so very quickly, why haven't you been there prior to now? Just give us an honest response. You're in the spotlight. You're one of Africa's most visible Actresses, well, yeah, you haven't. Is that just that agriculture isn't cool? I mean,
Well, as an actor, that takes a lot of your time. So you're still trying to get your character and your movies together. You don't naturally think that agriculture is a very viable business. Young people don't, especially in Africa, young people don't think like that. We've done a lot of movies now, and for some funny reason, we have not highlighted the usefulness of agriculture or what it can do for young people. So I'll say I'm guilty as charged. I haven't seen as much, maybe until when I started coming to some of these firms, to understand exactly how young people can actually get into agriculture and on different levels, really, that they can get involved. I don't have to be a farmer. There's so many other things I could do. Even in my movies, as a filmmaker, there's so many things that we can actually teach young people, and even ways that we can support agriculture on different information, for example, which Nollywood is very good at. But we don't know these things, so thank God for AFDB, yeah?
well, it would seem to me, and I think for those who are from the African Development Bank here, I think it's probably worth noting that one of the things that we might want to do is to have a stakeholders forum very soon that engages both Bollywood and Nollywood on the issue of agriculture, because the truth is a lot of people in the business really don't have a clue about agriculture. We tend to, particularly at the bank and other banks, we have all these acronyms which we assume everybody else understands. We have our own verbiage about agriculture and value chains, and that doesn't mean anything to a whole lot of people. So I would suggest that sometime, and I believe that President Additioner is very interested in backing an initiative like this. We do need to have a very serious engagement with the entertainment industry moving forward. We're talking about creative solutions here. Omoni, question to you. Any ideas about what we can do collaboratively with the Indian film industry? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, I have. The movie I was talking about that I'm going to shoot in August, the guy actually, his father is a farmer. So, okay, let me tell you a little bit about the story.
Sure.
There are three ladies, right? They just fresh out of university, and they go into Lagos. Of course, everyone knows Lagos is a big city. And of the perception now for young graduates, everyone wants a white-collar job. Nobody talks about agriculture. One of them is actually an agriculture graduate, but she's not thinking about farming. She wants a white-collar job, so everybody wants a white-collar job. So they go out there into the workforce, and there are no jobs. We know that at least half the young people in Nigeria are unemployed, so there are no jobs. Everyone's looking for the same job. 50 people are going for the same job. Only one person is going to get it, So they're there, they're trying to, get a job, and, it's been months, and how do you pay your rent, and all the issues that come with not having money, right? And one of the girls, her father is a farmer, and he's been saying to her, why don't you come back home and join me? Maybe you can help me with the new knowledge that you've gotten from university. But she's like, no, I don't want to be a farmer. How can you say I'll go through 4 years, 5 years in university to be a farmer? I don't want to be a farmer. Anyways, long story short, her heart gets broken, and, she still doesn't have a job, and she decides to go back home, because at the end of the day, when there's no money and there's no man, she decides to go back home. And then she meets her childhood friend, a guy who's now joined his father's farm business. He's gone, initially I was going to say he went to Israel, but now that we're here, he might as well go to India, to study some sort of agriculture, you know what I mean? And then he comes back home, and long story short, they set up this really big, they merged both farms, and they set up this really big farm, and then they set up a cooperative for all the villagers, and they start exporting, because now they have huge acres, because it's not just one person, it's not two, it's like all the farmers, they have huge acres, and they actually start exporting, they get in some money, they get money from a bank, AFDB has money they give out to farmers, but people don't know that. So when you have stuff like that in movies, so people know, oh, you can actually go and apply for this and use your land as collateral, or whatever you have as collateral. People know those things. They can actually go. There are funds that are set aside specifically for young farmers. There are funds that are set aside specifically for this type of farming or whatever. So it's not just about us saying farming is cool and we want them to look cool, or us saying you can realize your dreams through farming, you can become rich through farming, which everyone wants to be. There's no one who doesn't want to be rich, and especially the young people today. It's not just that, it's information. It's not there. If you put it in the papers, believe me, they're not going to read it.
Okay, so in a fragmented media space today, we no longer, I believe here in India, in the 1960s, probably even the early part of the 70s, in some parts of India, television broadcasts would have one film a week. Kumar could probably correct me on that. It was one movie a week, and that was it. Later on, it was increased to two. We had the same situation in Nigeria where, in those days, we didn't have cable. We only had able, whatever you're able to see. Channel 1, 2, or 3, that was it. But today, we live in a fragmented media space of hundreds of channels, social media, iPads, movies. There's a gamut of tools out there with which to reach the younger generation, and I believe that we do have to use this fully.
Yes.
Is there anybody here from the bankings, not just AFDB, but from the banks? I believe Wahid Olagunju was here yesterday. I don't know if he's in the audience today. Oh, there he is. The right
there.
person.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful.
See?
Now,
I'm talking to you people.
Could somebody please hand over the mic to him, because he's a critical part of this discussion.
Okay.
Wahid Olagunju is with the
Bank of Industry.
Bank of
Yes.
Industries in Nigeria. Now, you've heard the discussion that we're having here. The truth of the matter is that those in the entertainment industry are not running philanthropic organizations. The bottom line is the movie has to be able to make money. What is it that your group, your bank group, can do to support the movie industry in Nigeria? What kind of models are out there that they can take advantage of? What do you have to offer?
BOI actually has done quite a...
It would be nice to hear. Could you can somebody pass the microphone to Mr. Wahid Olagunju right over there, to my right? I know you're doing some stuff in the space. I've heard a lot of good things, but it would be nice to be able to hear what it is that you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. I believe this is a development communication process, and AFDB is quite spot on, and the contributions I've heard are also consistent with what we're doing at the Bank of Industry. Like Oboli was trying to let you know, we have a creative economy desk, and we've supported a number of initiatives in the entire film value chain, from those who produce movies to those who process or edit the post-production, and then those who also distribute the films, and cinema houses as well. Now, where we're talking about now is in terms of content, and the approach is quite valid. We're trying to pass a message. And she cited the American example, where the government took a deliberate policy to say, let's do X, Y, Z during the war. And development communication is very, very important. That's an area where we have the strongest potentials. Obolia and I have been discussing. She's been telling me about what she's trying to do. Decades back, we had Kokra Drone, a TV series in Nigeria that talked about rural life and also promoting agriculture. That was then supported by the United Bank for Africa. So the banking industry in Nigeria has actually supported the country's development aspirations. And the Bank of Industry, being Nigeria's premier development finance institution and a policy-based DFI, is set up primarily to do that as well, to ensure that we progress the country's development aspirations. And agriculture is one of the areas where we have the strongest competitive advantage. So we would continue to support communication processes that are aimed at ensuring that we mobilize Nigerians in support of the country's development aspirations. And in this case, the economic recovery and growth plan was launched recently by the Nigerian government. And agriculture is a vital component, as well as the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan. The agricultural sector is a very vital component. And at the Bank of Industry, we have 2 desks, right, devoted to agriculture. And we have the creative economy desk as well. So we all work in sync and try to ensure that we progress the country's development. Because like we said, agriculture, when you get your business model right, is a no-brainer. Because food is one of the basic needs of mankind. You must eat first before you can do anything. A Amotala must feed well before she can act. Same thing as Oboli.
Yes.
And yourself too. If you've been starving for 3 days, you want me to anchor your program very well. So, and if you look at our purchasing power, we spend more than 50% of our income in most part of the world on feeding. So it's a gap. And like the president said yesterday, $35 billion is spent annually importing food. And I hear that the world food business is worth about $15 trillion as well. That's a huge gap. The business model is there. There is a lot of money to be made. So it's for us to send out the right signals to mobilize our youths especially. Because in the next 20, 30 years, if we don't replace the current generation of farmers, we will all be starving on this continent. So rest assured, we'll continue to support the sector. Thank you.
Mr. Wahid Olagunju, thank you very much for your contributions there and also for BOI's support, not just of agriculture, but the entertainment industry. Thank you very, very much. It's been said that leadership is influence. Leadership, my definition of leadership is very simple. It's simply this, that it's the ability to take a people on a journey successfully that they otherwise would never have embarked upon. Therefore, I believe that it behoves our governments today to take the bull by the horns and create a new path for us as an industry, as a people, working together in synergies, public sector, private sector, and the entertainment industry to get to where we do need to go. I want to talk about where we go from here and what kind of forums Bollywood and Nollywood can set up. You guys are veterans of the industry, so my quick question to you is this. Are you familiar, are you aware of any forums that have helped bring together
Nollywood and Bollywood?
Nollywood and Bollywood?
No, no.
But there's a big event that's been taking place in Nigeria in the last couple of years that brings entertainment figures to Nigeria. It's a big festival in Lagos.
Oh, Afrif?
Yeah.
Is it Afrif?
I believe that's what it's called.
Yes, Afrif International Film
It's the
Festival.
film festival you're talking about?
It's a film festival, yes.
In Nigeria. It's
In
happening
Nigeria,
every year. Okay.
So but what can we do to grow this conversation here? But keeping in mind, it's not just about making movies. I believe, just like Amoni talked about earlier, we can not only change the narrative about agriculture, but we can make a tremendous amount of money from movies that are agriculture-centric. So what do you think that we can do? What's the next step for you guys moving forward?
So I think the reason why we're doing this Nollywood, Bollywood in agriculture is actually to see how the film industry can actually help agriculture, and we need to be very frank about that. Most of us are not going to go into agriculture. I probably won't. But we need to understand...
Never say never. But.
Well, I probably won't. That's why I said probably. But then we need to understand exactly what role we can play. We won't all leave our careers and go into a separate career. I would lie if most of us sit down here and say, I'm going to go into agriculture. It's very easy to say that. But most likely we won't. But do we understand the usefulness of agriculture and how it can actually help the young people in, in our countries or in our society? And I guess that's what this conversation is about. How do we use Nollywood and Bollywood to encourage young people? We already know that agriculture is the most employing, should I say, career or job opportunity. We know that entertainment, precisely in my country, Nollywood is the second. Okay, so we are both doing the same things. We are employing young people, we are keeping them busy. And how do we, there are so many other young people out there who don't have a means, a job or a means of surviving. How do we use Nollywood and the movies to lecture them, to send this message across that if you don't get into Nollywood, if you don't get into entertainment, there are other careers that you can successfully get into. Land, in Africa, we don't lack land. We don't lack green land. We have a lot of land, you know, very fertile land. And for example, in Nollywood movies, virtually everybody who is a farmer is very poor. It's either one Mazi Okereke or Mazi Namdi. Well, that's from the Igbo tribe in my country. They're very industrious people. And then so they're fighting for land, okay? So this is how we project farmers in Nollywood movies. They're fighting for land. One person is trying to kill somebody because that land has been in his family for ages, and then his child with singlet is, you know, struggling to get that land when the father dies, you know, with other children. So we portray farming and agriculture like a poor man, not just even physically poor, but poor in the mentality. So we need to first fight and win this war first from the mind. We need to change that first from the mind. And we need to show people that there are so many young people and there are so many even adults right now. For example, the former Olusegun Obasanjo, president of Nigeria, is a farmer, no? Mm-hmm. You know, but a lot of people don't know that about him. So many affluent people in Nigeria are farmers, and they could be doing something else, but they choose to put their money in that sector. Why? That is the question. Why? What do they know that we don't know?
It would seem to me, therefore, that agriculture is one of the best kept secrets in the world, given the wealth that's behind it. I'm going to call on somebody right now to give us a perspective on something that he's done that I really have come to appreciate in Nigeria that I think is worth emulating in other African countries. Richard Mark Imbraham, I see you in the audience. You just recently hosted the Nigerian Agricultural Awards. Why an agricultural award? Why an agricultural award, and what value do you see to that?
Thank you, Victor. I mean, it's straightforward. We needed to change the paradigm. You don't have, you know, a reward mechanism for the efforts being put into producing food for the country and by stakeholders who ordinarily are going through crazily challenging, you know, times to do so. The infrastructure deficit in Nigeria is crazy. It is sufficient to, would I say, put anyone out of business, let alone those who are now having to go into a sector like agriculture. So we just felt that it was necessary to begin to set the narrative aright and reward, you know, effort. Again, you know, from the standpoint of government, we felt the need that the government needed to begin to see, you know, the possibilities that agriculture could necessarily confer on, you know, the polity. By so doing, we needed to show that agriculture was different. Agriculture wasn't about drudgery. It could happen in the agricultural space. And like you said, I mean, the first responses we had was, is this about agriculture? Adao Sakwe, if she's still here, you know, got into the room on the day when she was being conferred an award, and she's like, wow, this is the real deal, you know? So gradually, we've done this for 3 years now. People are getting very comfortable with used to the idea that, I mean, things are changing in the agricultural space.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I must say, it's a very well put together event. It's almost Oscar-like if you haven't attended one of them. When's the next one? Next year? I just really commend you for that. You've put your money where your mouth is. Not just professionally, but for those who don't know, Richard is an attorney by profession who ditched the wig and the gown about 13 years ago, and he has pursued his passion in media around agriculture. So congratulations to you on that. I'd like to go to the audience right now and field a few questions from the audience, beginning to my right over there. If we could pass the microphone around very, very quickly, but please, before you ask your question, introduce yourself and direct your question specifically to a member of the audience, either Motala, Omoni, Rika, or Kumaraj. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Temisokwe Arugi. I'm an agripreneur in Nigeria. I have a cassava farm and a cassava processing business. My question...
Sorry, what's your profession? What was your profession originally?
I studied medicine before I moved into agriculture. Omoni mentioned something about agriculture not being of high profitability, and a lot of our farmers are actually being poor. I have a very short story about one of my staff. In 2013, during the electoral processes, he came to me and told me of how an honorable guy promised him job and left working for me. So I told him, if you have any problems, just come back to me. The jobs that the honorable guy promised him did not come up, and he was shy enough not to come back to me. It was his sister that actually opened up. Today, the guy is back with me as my farm manager. He's building his house. Wow. The same thing for one of my tractor operators. 27-year-old, not married, is building his house. Now, the issue is, it's not about agric being dirty or not being dirty, because we cannot do without agriculture not being dirty. That's the primary production level. But the issue is, for you, you are the image maker. You are even more visible than people like us. We need you to amplify, and we really, really need you to get back to understand this primary production level and be able to, like he said, mention about creating a story around it, because the stories are actually true. They are out there, but we need you because you are the amplifiers. You are the ones that can amplify the story. You are the ones that can drive the message right down to the minds of people. And I really, really pray that you commit yourself to this. And I hope God helps you.
Thank you. Yeah. Can I just say something real quick? I mean, that's great. And I want to do that. I'm already doing that. But you see, there's just one me. Like I said earlier, not every filmmaker is going to commit to making movies to promote agriculture. I can sit here and tell you for free. Right. Not everyone knows how to make propaganda movies look good, look entertaining, because there's a difference. If you make a movie, if you make a propaganda movie and it's almost like a documentary, ain't nobody gonna watch it. It has to be entertaining. Like Wives on Strike that I was saying to her earlier, it's a propaganda movie. It's a movie about women empowerment and the fact, and the girl child and early marriage. But it was so funny. Everyone went to see it. It's one of the blockbusters from Nigeria. So when you're making an agriculture movie, it has to be that kind of movie. Now, not every filmmaker will know how to walk the thin line between preaching a message and entertaining, because you have to marry both. Right.
There's got to be a girl in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not everyone will know how to do that. So not every filmmaker is going to make movies to promote agriculture, which is why I said it has to be planned. It has to be an effort by government and banks and bodies who are promoting agriculture, who are dishing out a lot of money towards agriculture. It's something that will probably happen eventually. Agriculture is probably going to become cool eventually. The youth are going to probably wake up one day and realize, you know what, I can become a billionaire by being a farmer, eventually. But why do we have to wait for the next 10, 20 years when people have probably started starving because we're not producing enough food to feed our people, when we can actually get it done now? I promise you, if the government and all these banks and everybody come together with Nollywood, Bollywood, the filmmakers, and say, you know what, we really want to push this agenda, it's not going to take more than 2 years.
Can I come in there quickly?
Absolutely.
Can I? Okay. So there are two ways you can achieve this, exactly what she's just said. There are two ways you can achieve this. One is, like you said, do a propaganda movie. I don't normally advise that route because, like she said, not everyone can do a propaganda movie and make it look right or entertaining, because at the end of the day, you want to get to the mainstream. That's the whole reason. Don't forget also that for every course like this, there are monies, put behind advertisements and stuff like that. Put this money towards Nollywood and Bollywood, and more people will see it than regular advertisement. Now, the best way to do this, instead of doing propaganda movies, is, like she said earlier, somewhere, but I just want to expatiate on that. Educate the people in the sector. I mentioned earlier that we do movies and portray people in agri or in farming a certain way. That, I think, is the most powerful thing right now we need to do. If I am not aware, I'll give you a very little example. A place called Cross River State in my country. We used to have, in movies, in Nigerian movies, we used to portray them as house boys, house girls. Any Nigerians here? Do you remember what I'm saying? You don't guess, it was always a house girl. Ubong was always your cook. But there was a young man who came called Donald Duke, the governor of that state. He changed that around. He made it cool to come to Cross River. Now they have one of the most vibrant, what's that thing? Carnivals, in the world. And suddenly, we start to see Cross River in a different light. We start to see them as cool. Now you don't see anybody putting, you don't guess it as, as a maid or whatever. Because now you have changed perception. That is the easiest way to get agriculture into people's minds. Let the people who do the movies, from the actors, to the directors, to the producers, to the scriptwriters, educate them. Let them see for themselves, understand, believe it. And you will not need to control the narrative that much, because then they will naturally start to change things themselves. The second way also is to fund the movies. When you put the money in it, then you can direct how it goes.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much, Yolade. All the time,
money where your mouth is.
Money walks.
Yes.
Yeah,
Your money where your mouth is.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Did I see your hand raised earlier, Sifo, or will you just
There's
give
so
me
many
a signal here?
Hi. Good evening.
Okay, we have somebody. Okay, we'll take your question really quick from the back, and then we'll come back to Sifo up front here.
Hi. Good evening. I'm Hardik Agrawal. I'm a student, and we have a small plot in our garden where my mother likes to grow leafy green vegetables that she has been unsuccessfully trying to feed me for the last 20 years. And, so my question is for actually anybody on the panel, that this is the age of YouTube. This is the era where social media has 15 million, people have 15 million followers, 20 million followers. I guess following somebody on a daily basis, following their videos every week, gives a far more constant and steadfast change to the local perception, rather than a movie that 10 million people will go to the theater, watch it once, and hopefully not forget about it. But it does not become a part of their lives. So how can Nollywood and Bollywood transpire together to create a platform on something like YouTube or Instagram, which is really, I think, I don't know the word.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
We understand.
Okay. If I understand what you said correctly, you're saying
how do we use social media?
People would much rather follow someone on YouTube, and they would believe that before they would believe a film.
I think
I personally,
what is referencing is the virability of short-form YouTube productions.
Okay, that's fine, and that works, but I don't think it works more than movies. So I'm talking with my maid, and she says something, and I say, "Where did you get that?" She says, "Oh, I watched it in a film." For her, it's law, because she watched it in a film. It means that's it. That's how the world is. She saw someone do it in a movie, and that's how the world is. Now, people, like you said, people follow celebrities, right? So it's much easier when a celebrity says something for them to believe it, right, than not. A YouTube video goes really to people who are online. But guess what? Majority of the population in Africa are not online. They don't have access to internet, but they watch our movies. Our movies go all over Africa. I kid you not. My grandmother in the village has never gone on the internet, but she's watched a plethora of Nollywood films. You know what I'm saying? So for those people, YouTube is not going to work. It's perfect. We can use it as well, but not instead of. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like I said, because of piracy, our movies get everywhere. I mean, it's not the best of things. We hate it when that happens. One of my movies is currently being pirated, and that's just pulling my hair out, right? We hate it when that happens. But if you really want to pass on a message, then, that helps as well.
Yeah.
So the movies get to the nook and crannies where the internet will never get to.
Yeah. But, Omar, you're absolutely right there, but I think we also have, a nugget of profound truth
Yes,
here.
that's why I say we use it as well.
Both short-form viral media and movies need to work in tandem. And the reason for that is if we're going to make agriculture cool, then we're going to have to reach that generation that probably doesn't sit down to watch a full-length movie, but will watch something on WhatsApp, on YouTube, and other social media platforms. Now, to do that, and to do it very well, how many people out there who are directors, producers, or actors are going to put their money into a short-form production? Very likely they're not, because we haven't worked out the business models for monetizing that kind of material. Therefore, I think if we have the support and the backing of the private sector, of the banks, to enable us to do that, then we can make headway. Very valid question. Both of them, I believe, can go hand in hand.
Can I come in there?
Let's just take a quick question from CFO here, and then I would like to give our Bollywood contingent also an opportunity to chip in also. CFO?
That's her.
All right, I'll stand up. First of all, thank you guys. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing eye-opener, and just getting to understand how we can collaborate better. And I want to thank all of you personally, really, for responding on short notice to my request for you to be here. So thank you so much. But I wanted to come back, Victor, to your question about the possibility of a forum. Can we have a forum that brings Nollywood and Hollywood together? So I'm the Director for Special Projects in the President's Office. And this session is not by accident. This session is actually not by accident.
Could you put your microphone closer to your mouth?
Okay, sorry. So this session is actually not by accident. It was really intended so that we can start to think about future collaborations and how we can bring Nollywood and Hollywood together, Nollywood and Bollywood together, how they can come together, work together. And I really love the ideas that I'm hearing this afternoon. I mean, you've already written a short script, Kumar, and so fantastic. So I love the ideas we're hearing here. And I know that even on your own steam, this is already the beginning of a relationship between Nollywood and Hollywood. But it will be important for us to engage in some way to help to bring you together, advance that. And we're really looking forward to those entertaining propaganda movies, on agriculture and all of that, because it's really important. And I think there is a growing change of mentality. Young people are beginning to understand that agriculture is not just, downstream. It's sort of an entire value chain, and as you were saying,
Sure.
It's the transportation, the packaging, the export, and so on and so forth. So I just want to say this is a great session. It's a great start, and I'm really looking forward to serious collaboration between the two continents.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sifo. The short response to that is a forum of stakeholders in Bollywood and Nollywood possible? I believe so, and that can be done very, very quickly if the political will and the financing is there to make that possible. Thank you very much for your contribution. I believe that we had somebody, the lady right in front of me over here. Thank you. The lady over here, and then we'll come back to you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. My name is Lillian Best. I'm from Liberia, Central Bank of Liberia. And I grew up in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
So which is not the same thing as working in Hollywood. But,
okay.
Everybody in LA can pretend they're a movie star and it's fine. And the thought that keeps coming to my mind as we think about selling agriculture to the youth is tell the truth. Because maybe in Nigeria, the policies and sort of the mix of policy and finance and that whole stew that is required to grow a tree or a tree crop, maybe those are so well advanced that they are more conducive and a conducive environment toward sort of success in agriculture. But in Liberia, to be quite honest, it's not. And so you can make the most tear-jerking movie and the most inspiring movie, and then all someone has to do is get a nice visit from their cousin from the village, where there is arable land or presumably arable land all around them, and they're still, with all due respect to them, dirt poor. That's the reality, because the fact is, even my mother, who is a journalist who owns the most successful newspaper in the country, along with her husband, she's an agriculturist too. She started a farm. But it is really hard to just know what to do, because a lot of people, who are in agriculture, they're not experts. They're learning as they're going, sure. And that is very cost intensive. So they don't know what they're doing. The support isn't there. The financial support isn't there. You're not going to get a loan from a bank. Even the micro credit or institutions will, take you for a ride sometimes and string you along. And then you still have to call your daughter who works at the central bank and say, Lillian, I need $1,000 and I need it today.
Okay.
So the thing is, and that's why when I really appreciated you, Omotola, saying that we need to get the information. It reminds me of Winona Ryder going to steal something from a store and said she wanted to do research. She was trying to do research on what it felt like to be a real thief. Sure. Sometimes it just starts with one person and one, a team doing one movie and really doing the research so that they can bring the truth. Sure. And help sort of change perceptions with the truth, but okay. Also including the issue of patience.
All right.
Because in this era of sort of instant gratification, I'm done. Everybody just wants everything now.
If you could just nail the end of your comment or question here, yes. I would appreciate that.
Yes. So it's just a comment that patience is also an important message to bring to the fore sure. in these movies. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. What we're talking about here is an issue of policy reform. There's got to be the political will at the top. I mean, we can't talk about a transformation of the agricultural space in the absence of policy reform, which I do hope Liberia gets pretty soon. Nigeria, 4 or 5 years ago, under the leadership of the current president of the bank, really saw a transformation in mindsets, a transformation in perceptions about agriculture as a business, because if there's one thing this president did when he was agriculture minister, it was to drill that down. If he said it 1,000 times and if people thought he had said it enough, he was only just beginning. Yep. But we're gradually beginning to see perceptions change, so there definitely has to be commensurate political will and support at the top. The gentleman right in the middle.
Yeah, thank you very much.
After that, we'll take a couple more questions.
You were almost going to where, my name is Tajuddin Nasiru. I'm an economist with West Africa Monetary Institute in Ghana. I'm sure it's part of the transformation agenda of the current president of African Development Bank. The transformation he started as a Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria. I'm sure it's because of his vision that brought the Nollywood stars we are seeing here today. And I'm sure a lot of us are here today to hear what they will say about agriculture. All said and done, I just want to add a point to what Omoli and Omotola said. I think what we want, what we demand from Nollywood, from Bollywood, is to move a little bit away from this idea of depicting agricultural or practitioner in the agricultural as people, poor people, or people, on the lower level.
I think we've already concluded that.
Yes, that's a way I want to put it to them. In most of their movies, when they want to depict transformation of a poor boy who was trying to chase a lady or chasing something, in most time, they depict that transformation of that guy into either medicine, or becoming a medical doctor, or becoming
sure.
a worker in
and that's
I think the moment we start depicting agriculture as an area where
You can grow
your
Yes.
fortune can change,
naturally.
and these ladies will start following you. Who will appreciate it?
That's why I
Thank you
said
very much.
in my film, it's the other
It's
way
it's
around.
always about the ladies.
So they started poor because they were trying to do other things. When they went into agriculture, that's when they actually made a fortune. So which is what you're saying, we're changing the perception. So from being poor, trying to do one or two other things and, menial jobs or whatever, when they went into agriculture, they actually became rich. And you see, the farmer got the girl. So it's cool.
The girls are always important. I would also like to commend AFDB here and also make a suggestion, and that is that the bank identify brand ambassadors in the entertainment industry, whether that be in Bollywood, whether that be in Nigeria, whether they be directors, producers, writers, and journalists. You do have to have brand ambassadors who are passionately going to support the whole initiative around agriculture. These things don't just happen by happenstance. They're very deliberate, and we do have to court and engage the entertainment industry on a very regular basis, not just on a one-time basis, but continually. We'll take one more question from the audience. I see two hands raised over here. Those will be our last two questions. I'll go with the lady in green, one of my favorite colors, Chiching. And then we'll come to Richard Mark and Brown.
Also the Nigerian flag.
And the color of the Nigerian flag, definitely.
So mine is more of a comment. I just think that there was something I attended a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, where I believe it was CNN that came to Nigeria, and the point was that they wanted to push an initiative of AIDS is not a death sentence. So they called the creative team, they called a couple of producers, and they said, these are all the things that the government is doing. These are the things we're providing. People can get treatment, they can do this. When you guys do movies, just put it there. Don't do a movie about AIDS, but let someone have AIDS in the movie and they're not dead, or they're not dying and they're still living their life. So I think, for the groups that are trying to push agriculture, it would also be nice to call a team of producers and filmmakers and just tell them, just portray farmers nicely in your movies. You don't have to write a movie about farming, but instead of being a doctor, let the person just be a farmer. It's okay, it's subtle, but it works.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I will take the last question from the floor, and I do hope that you have a question for our panel from Bollywood. If not, then I will throw my last question to them.
Yeah, now my concern is about...
Can you speak loudly, please?
My concern is about the role of policy. In other words, government. Someone said it was the American government that led the way to, a revolution in the war, turnout. Where those governments sit in the attainment of food self-sufficiency in India, and then looking at Africa, I have a challenge because government really isn't depicting or posturing in a responsible way as to be an example, to the youth. We're talking about changing perception. You go to Maputo, you sign up to 10% of your budget being allocated to agriculture. Year on year, we see you hand out 1.26%. It tells us the prioritization of agriculture from a government mindset perspective. The younger generation will be looking at that as a clear demonstration of unseriousness.
Okay.
The roads to the farms, you look at the infrastructure deficit, okay? Year on year, you cannot process, commodities because of the power deficit. And you have been budgeting, for other things other than infrastructure. So what lessons and what leadership is required to push this? And then we're talking about the entertainment industry. And sorry, please, just a bit. We're talking about the entertainment industry. They would need to have a narrative, a storyline, all right? How do you forge that in very practical terms?
Okay, the first and the foremost thing is, I'll reply to your question. Whenever we start a movie, first of all, we have to have the basic idea on what we are doing. Like if we decide we are doing a movie on a backdrop of agriculture, then why am I doing it? You're doing it for a cause. Now, it has to have entertainment. I think the people from Nollywood gave a very good idea on it has to be entertaining. If you do not make it entertaining, then it becomes a documentary. No one wants to see it. And the guys over there, or you put it on the YouTube, they are all a lot of followers, but probably no one has seen the entire stuff. So it's very important that once you've decided what is the backdrop of the movie, and then we have good story writers who come into pre-production, make a screenplay, then comes the dialogue writers, and then a Bond script is prepared. There are 10 times the Bond script is revised. Once this is done, we go to the bank and say, here we are. Are you ready to fund it? The bank starts asking you a lot of funny questions, but yes, if they go ahead, and then your movie starts. Then it's a shoot, a pre-production, the movie is completed. Let me tell you, Titanic made more than $2 billion. Okay? So if many times there are banks who have funded for a special cause, but finally they have landed up making huge profits because this is a very high-risk industry. Filmmaking is a very high-risk industry. You might lose your entire money, but if the money comes back, you get 100 times the money back. In which industry in India or Nigeria will you get within 6 months or 8 months 100 times the money? So yes, it's a lucrative industry. If you go with the professionals and do make a correct project and they advise you correctly, you will be showing agriculture in the right way. The message has been sent, plus you have got a film which is making huge money, not only in Nigeria, but worldwide. And let me tell you, if I sell you a ball pen, you will give me 10 rupees and finish off. But if I give you a movie, I'm giving you a movie for 6 months or 1 year. After 1 year, I can file a case against you if you use my movie. The same thing. I have sold my movie Tara to 25 people, 25 companies, all non-exclusive rights for internet. And still I keep getting people. I wonder, why is he giving me money? My movie is already on net. But I recently, there's a big company, Venus, came to me, and they gave me a huge check. I said, my movie is already on net, on YouTube, everywhere. He said, no, we want it on Venus channel also. So movie making is fantastic. After I die, my son will keep making money on the movies which I have made. So the banks have to understand this. Your bank will keep making money for the next 100 years on the movie of the agricultural movie if you invest in. So please do support a cause by making movies in a very sensible way with the right people, technical people, and the good actors, and you're not going to go wrong.
On that note, I'll take that as the final comment from Kumar Raj. We'll take closing comments in this order, beginning with Rika on my left, and work our way down to Jalade Motala on the right. Kindly give us your closing comments in 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. Thank you.
In addition to this, everything we discuss in 2 hours, we have to make it happen through entertainment, through movies, through YouTube, through social media. Drop by drop becomes an ocean. And everybody have to put that drop in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rika. Omani?
Okay, so a lot has been said here today, and we're all going to go back to our various fields and our various lives. And sometimes, we go back and that's it. It's done. We've just finished talking. But I believe that AFDB is different. Dr. Sifu here is going to testify to that. So what I want us to take away from this is we don't need to keep planning this or keep talking about this for the next 1 year. It's not rocket science. It's easy for us to have just one more meeting and we say, yes, these are all the stakeholders. We have the entertainment people here. We have the banks, the people with the money. We have the government. Now let's sit together and say, yes, this is what we want to do. We're going to push this. We want to change mindsets. We want to create another story, and we can do it. And okay, let's say, for the next 1 year, we're going to do 50 films, and all 50 films have to have agriculture somewhere in there. They're movies, they're entertaining movies, they're movies that are going to go to the big screen. People are going to watch it not knowing that you're preaching something to them, because the one mistake you don't want to make is make people realize this is a propaganda film, because then they're not going to go watch it. But you release your film normally, and everybody goes to watch the film, and it's entertaining. They have a good laugh. They come out feeling good, but they've gotten a lot of information along the way. It's not, like I said, it's not just about the fact that agriculture is cool, but what is the information that they need to know? What are the resources that are available to farmers or to young people? All that information is subtly put in these films. It's beautifully done. And then let's see what happens in the next 1 or 2 years. Let's see how many people are actually going to come out of school and walk to these banks or go to these places and say, you know what, I want to farm. How can you help me? If they know, if the information is out there and they know it will work, like what he said as well, if we have these brand ambassadors that not just the movies, but are also putting it on their social media, that guess what, guys? Do you know you can actually go to so-and-so place and get information on farming? Do you know you can actually go to so-and-so bank and get funded to start your own farm? They will do it.
Absolutely.
Do you know that as a farmer, as a young farmer, you stand to make XXX amount of money? This is an industry that is this big, and this is the money that's available to farmers. They would do it, but they don't know. They don't know they can be rich from farming. They don't know that there's resources, there's information, there's stuff that is available to them. So once we preach that message, and we can preach it successfully, it works. It definitely works. It's been tested and proven, and it does work.
Thank you, Moni. And our last comment from the panel. Awatala.
Everything has been said, I guess. 2 hours has gone already.
Yes.
Was I 1 hour late?
Well,
because I've only been here for like an hour.
Kind of, sort of.
Anyway, this has been a very interesting and informative session. Like I said, everything has been said, but I would just hope that we take some things away from here that are very key. From the beginning, we need to take away from here that we need to have another kind of discussion apart from what we've had today, a smaller one, a bigger one, however, but most importantly with the stakeholders. Everyone I'm very happy that BOI is here, Mr. Olagunju. You've been doling out a lot of money to people to do movies, so now you can help them and make sure that at least, because when you put out money, and give filmmakers money, you actually can influence the kind of stories they do. If you also start to tell people that, try and put something about agriculture or the development of agriculture. A lot of people talk about agriculture and we actually forget that there are so many phases to agriculture. It's not just planting. There's processing. There's so many things. I sat down in another forum with Patotomi and a minister from Nigeria, Ogbe, the Minister of Agriculture, I guess. And he lectured us on so many things and on so many levels of agriculture. I was actually stunned at even some waste products, things that you think are waste products, but how much they're actually going for, with export. These are things that a lot of young people actually throw away. They're things we throw away. They're not necessarily things in the farm. So agriculture is very vast, and information is very important. We said something, I was going to say that earlier when somebody said something about social media, but I couldn't say that at that point. I think I understand what he was trying to say, which we have already dealt with anyway. Social media is just as important. Most of us actors couldn't, survive without social media, really, because that's the way we connect with our fans directly. So we need to also utilize that in agriculture. And how do you use that? Like she already said, ambassadors. It's very important to have, you can't work with everybody. You can inform everybody, but you can't work with everybody. You must have designated ambassadors. I suggest, have some directors, producers on different levels of filmmaking that are committed to the cause. They have to be passionate about it, understand it, and then take it on as something that they don't mind, so that you don't even have to push them to once in a while, talk about it. So I think that's another way to have ambassadors. I already talked about from the part of implementation, which is the money being given out. And I think finally, also with controlling the people, what I said earlier, to me is the most important thing. That's what I want to end with. Changing perception. Changing perception. You can do everything, you can say everything, but you cannot force me to believe everything. So getting people to believe that truly you can make money and you can make a living from agriculture through Nollywood and Bollywood is, I think, the mission. However we need to do that, we need to do that now.
Thank you very much. And on that note, we bring this very enlightening panel discussion on what I would like to call agritainment and agriculture.
Yeah, we have edutainment, so agritainment.
Agritainment. I think we need to form a new industry here on agritainment, and it'll be mutually beneficial, not just for the agricultural sector, but also for the entertainment sector. There's a whole lot that we can do. In closing, I'd like to say that we have acknowledged today that there is a pervasive perception problem around the subject of agriculture and agribusiness. We've recognized that the media indeed can play a strategic role, and that given the right business models, working in tandem with one another, Nollywood and Bollywood, we can do a tremendous amount of good to support the narrative that turns the narrative of poverty, the narrative of drudgery, into one of wealth and of success, and one of, definitely a sector that can be used to employ quite a number of people on both sides of the continent. It's been a wonderful session. I'd like to thank, beginning on my left, Kumar Raj, who I believe that we'll be hearing a whole lot more about. I wish you all the very best as you go back and forth between India and Africa. We look forward to hearing more about your initiatives there. Rika Rana, thank you very much. Congratulations on your good success recently, and thank you for being a part of this panel. Omoni Oboli, you're not just you're walking the talk. You've been involved with agriculture for quite a number of years, going back to the former minister's term in office. I know that you were one of his brand ambassadors, and you've done an excellent work. But you've gone beyond that to begin to integrate positive narratives into your movies, and for that I want to thank you, in addition to being part of this panel. And Omotola, even though I did say earlier that never say never, I look forward to your perception also changing about agriculture. Definitely continue to do what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job on the entertainment side, but I believe that you do have a powerful role that you can play somehow, somewhere in the field of agriculture. It may not be on the farm. It could be in the distribution side. It could be on the marketing side. It could even be as a brand ambassador. But we would like to see your voice and your brand being used to further this discussion for the betterment of our continent. To a wonderful audience, I want to thank you for your time. They say when you're having fun, time tends to fly very, very quickly. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. I wish you a wonderful evening. Don't forget, in a few hours, we will have the entertainment segment tonight in actually 30 minutes or 40 minutes from now. Enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful rest of stay here in Ahmedabad. I'm your host, Victor Ladukun. It's been a wonderful pleasure.